I've been in the auto industry 40 years, and I've never seen this kind of investment.
$6.5 billion strictly dedicated to EVs.
Wedbush says spending on commercial EVs should top $1.2 trillion between now and 2030.
We're building the future of the electric vehicle.
What is it about EVs that makes it both unique and dated? It is conceivable that electric vehicles depreciate differently from conventional vehicles due to their technical specifications, uncertainty surrounding their degradation, and differences in life expectancy. When we purchase a gadget, it always has a depreciation in its value over the years. Does this depreciation apply with EVs? And if it does, then what is the cost of such depreciation to a customer after he purchases an EV? Around the world, industries are being compelled by climate change to adopt more sustainable business strategies. The car sector is especially interested in this development because road transportation accounts for 17% of global emissions of greenhouse gases. The automobile sector has been undergoing business model changes for a long time due to expanding digitalization, new forms of mobility, and a greater emphasis on sustainability. Specifically, the latter is demonstrated by the growing need for fleet electrification. One of the biggest issues facing the automobile industry is the electrification of passenger cars. This problem is made worse by growing legislative demand in many nations to convert to low-emission car models. Specifically, offer incentives for electric vehicle ownership, such as lowered parking fees or even direct financial assistance for the vehicle's purchase price. Several wealthy nations have seen a rise in the number of new EV registrations as a result of regulatory backing and consumers' growing environmental consciousness. With a 74% share in 2020, Norway has led the world in new EV registrations for a number of years. But more lately, other European nations like Germany or the Netherlands have begun to catch up with regard to new EV registrations. The USA, one of the biggest car markets in the world, will account for only 2% of new registrations in 2020, but there will be a noticeable upward trend in these numbers. Many nations have set aggressive goals for the decarbonization of their fleet of passenger vehicles in addition to the rising percentage of new EV registrations. The European Commission has set a goal of 30 million electric vehicles by 2030 and suggested a 100% reduction in emissions for new cars by 2035. By 2030, Germany wants to contribute 10 million EVs toward this goal. The Netherlands and Norway want to register 100% zero-emission vehicles by 2030 and 2025 respectively. The USA wants to boost its EV sales to 50% by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. As Carl Jung famously observed, creative fantasy is the source of all human works. So what right do we have to depreciate our imagination? Can it be true in the case of EV vehicles? An electric vehicle's bill of materials is different since the technical concept of an EV is fundamentally different from that of a conventional vehicle. The car is propelled by a considerably smaller and simpler electric engine rather than a sophisticated combustion engine. Moreover, an electric battery that is heavier, bigger, and more expensive takes the place of the petrol tank. High voltage power connections and electronics are also necessary. With a larger battery and a smaller electric engine than regular cars, EVs have a different technological layout than traditional cars, which means that their cost structure will be different. When compared to traditional vehicles, they are typically less expensive because the engine and powertrain are simpler and require less parts. In contrast, the battery accounts for the greatest portion of the expenses, accounting for about 40% of the entire cost of manufacture. EVs have only been produced in large quantities for around 10 years, thus our understanding of battery deterioration and life expectancy is still limited but growing. This ignorance also affects how EV depreciation is perceived. Little is known about the depreciation of electric vehicles, despite the fact that conventional vehicle depreciation is well documented in history. The gradual reduction in a vehicle's value is known as depreciation. The vehicle's sale price is subtracted from its current value to determine the depreciation over a given period of time. For many stakeholders, including car manufacturers, the life expectancy and depreciation of their vehicles are crucial economic indicators that are used to assess warranty costs. In order to determine their rates, mobility providers like taxi services and car rental companies need to know the depreciation. The anticipated value loss of the vehicle is the basis on which insurers set their rates. Banks use the vehicle's depreciation to determine the terms of auto credits. Governments and authorities demand that the depreciation specify taxes, subsidies, and other regulatory tools. Finally, buyers also want to know how their investment will be appreciated over time. The total cost of ownership approach examines a product's overall expenses to a customer for the duration of ownership, such as a car. The depreciation of the vehicle must be taken into account when calculating the total cost of ownership of a vehicle in addition to variable costs like fuel. When the world is full of doubt, what people do is assess the situation and then come up with a plan. What have the experts concluded on the latest EV depreciation study, and as an EV admirer, do you value it? There are differences throughout cars when it comes to depreciation. A recent analysis from iSeeCars.com indicates that electric automobiles depreciate more than any other sort. After 5 years, the average EV has lost 49.1% of its value in 2023. It's worth it, based on the analysis. The Tesla Model X, Nissan Leaf, Chevrolet Bolt EV, and Tesla Model 3 completed the top 5. According to a statement from iSeeCars executive analyst Carl Brower, used electric vehicles have always suffered higher depreciation than equivalent gasoline cars. This is due to incentives that effectively lower an EV's price before it's even acquired, as well as worries about battery replacement expenses. Until consumers gain confidence in the long-term ownership costs of electric vehicles and heavy incentives are no longer required to sell them, this pattern will persist. Based on the data, the typical vehicle lost 38.8% of its value after 5 years. After trucks, which appreciated the most, SUVs and hybrids lost 37.4% and 41.2% of their value, respectively. Hybrids are among the best because they suggest consumers appreciate the combination of high fuel efficiency and zero range anxiety, according to Brower. Though all used cars hold their value better than they did pre-pandemic, a lot of sports cars were still valuable. With just 9.3% of its value lost after 5 years, the Porsche 911 topped the list of cars with the lowest rates of depreciation. The top 5 cars were completed by the Honda Civic, Jeep Wrangler, Toyota Tacoma, and Porsche 718 Cayman. According to the analysis, premium sedans and SUVs lost value more quickly than non-luxury ones. After 5 years, the Maserati Quattroporte had lost 64.5% of its value, making it the car with the most value loss. The top 5 cars were the BMW 7 Series, Maserati Ghibli, BMW 5 Series, and Cadillac Escalade ESV. More than 1.1 million used cars from the 2018 model year that were sold between November 2022 and October 2023 were examined by iSeeCars for its investigation. Now, when people hear about the depreciation of an EV vehicle, they will decide not to purchase one. Now, with all this drama on the EV depreciation, will there be a market loss for the EV segment? Diesel vehicles were originally seen to be more valuable than gasoline vehicles, but this is beginning to change as a result of environmental concerns and the move toward electrification. Similar to EVs, gasoline and diesel vehicles typically lose 60% of their initial value after 3 years. The comparison becomes more complicated though, because of how EV technology is developing and what the market wants. Potential EV purchasers and the automotive industry as a whole are very interested in the future of EV depreciation. A number of variables are probably going to affect how quickly EVs depreciate as the market grows and changes. The rate of technological improvement is one of the most important variables affecting the depreciation of electric vehicles. Older EV vehicles might not depreciate as fast if new battery technologies enable longer ranges and faster charging times. The value retention of EVs may also be improved by other technical advancements like advanced driver assistance systems. The demand for used EVs is projected to rise as more people choose EVs and as these cars become more commonplace, as is the case in traditional car markets. This increased demand may cause the rate of depreciation to decrease. The expansion and availability of EV charging infrastructure may have a favorable effect on EV depreciation rates. Range anxiety declines with increased accessibility to charging, which could increase the appeal of EVs in the used car market. Will the ongoing depreciation of EVs cause their prices to drop in the near future? Do share your thoughts on this in the comments section. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to our channel and do not forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Goodbye.